Hello, hello, everybody. It is Tuesday, which means it is time for Tuesday Talks. And this week, I'm going to be joined by one of the most incredible people in Rodan and Fields. Gabriel Sedlak is going to be joining me today. Hey, Nikki. Thank you so much for joining. So if you're here watching live, feel free to let us know in the comments. And if you're here on the replay, feel free to also let us know. I'm gonna just send Gabriel a little invite here, and then he's gonna. I'm so excited for you guys to hear his perspective about Rodan and Fields and the business, and also to learn a little bit more about him. So, hey!
Hey,
There
okay.
you are.
Is this working? Can you hear me or no?
I can hear you perfectly.
All right, good. I wanted to pull over safe and have my coffee so I could think straight. So,
Yep, that's perfect. Awesome. Well, first of all, thank you so much for doing this. I know a lot of people are going to be jumping on wanting to know more about you. So would you be able to introduce yourself and share a little bit about your background prior to Rodan and Fields?
oh wow, yeah. Let me turn you up. Well,
Okay.
it's a fascinating story. You know, some people choose the industry. Some people say that the industry chooses them. I was 17 and I saw a guy with his wife. So he comes into this building and he his wife walks in and they were heading to the islands with their children. Their
Okay.
kids were very present. His wife was full of radiance. The way she looked at him, you know, within a relationship, the wife is very revealing as
Mm-hmm.
to how things are going. And you just saw you saw wholesomeness and happiness. And she looked at him and he said, "Yeah, listen, if you guys want to get a hold of us, we're going to be down the islands, but we'll be available to talk to you. We're going to be there for the week and just getting some work done." And it just hit me. That was the moment it hit me. But prior to that, I had just kind of tiptoed with some like barley juice and some various little drinks. People at church had it, but I knew that the industry worked. But I had to be 18, obviously.
Right.
I became 18, watched that guy say what he said, and then it hit me. I said, if this guy operates like that, there's something that I'm not seeing. Because being raised in Atlanta, I was raised in Buckhead, the northern side of the city. And if you know, there's a lot of wealth, there was a lot of pressure. You know, you had to have a Mercedes by the time you were 5 years of age. You had to live in the country club. You know, everybody played, some Ivy League sport, and there was just a lot of pressure. And so, but and everybody worked for Coca-Cola or IBM or some corporate job. Latchkey kids was a big term back then. Everybody
Okay.
worked so hard to get bigger houses, and yet you saw a lot of brokenness. You didn't see them present. So he was the first guy I saw indirect sales that was so present that it reflected his whole family, and they were making so much money. I said, I don't know any of these guys, these executives that are doing what they're doing. So it really hooked me at that point. Long answer, but
No,
yeah.
that's great. So then if you already had this awareness of direct sales, if you were already introduced to this type of business model, and I'm assuming you jumped into a company at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you,
Well, interesting background. So I have, and I'm not it's not in any chronological order, but
okay, that's okay.
I would be at Denny's at 3 in the morning with folks after church, putting barley green and orange juice and trying to, tell people all the stuff that you did 20, 30 years ago when you were a nutcase if you were in a home-based business,
Yeah.
right? See, we have to understand that people, the traditional business world has always been threatened by empowering the individual. When you
Mhm.
empower the individual, what the companies don't understand is that they end up making exponentially more. But the corporate world is very cannibalistic. So everything has to be hierarchical and you have to pay all these dues and there's all this protocol. And when you can break the walls out and empower an army of self-employed 1099s, you can do something amazing. So I did that. There was something back in the day, mink oil was a big thing. There was all these nutritional supplements and all these weight loss programs. And, I was always around all of it. I didn't say yes to all of them, but I did jump in a few. I was in some very big tech companies. I was in nutraceutical companies. I was in technology direct sales companies. I was in another nutraceutical company. I've seen them come and go. I was at a convention one time with 200 of the other leaders, and we were some of the top 5, and we watched the company shut down while we were at the convention because they had ruffled some feathers in the industry that they were trying to grow in. And so the threatened parties slapped a lawsuit on them because they knew they didn't have the money or the pockets to fight in court. You know the games that's always played with stuff like that. And so I was licking my wounds, and I jumped into another company because I knew a lady that made about 200 grand in no time. And I told my wife, I said, and I've had a lot of success. Okay. I had a lot of success in some of these direct sales companies. I don't mean to cheapen it because I can kind of hear you. It's kind of, it is the speaker's not real loud, but, and I said, if she can do that in that company, I can do that. So I jumped in that company, even though it was a 20-year-old company at the time. I was gaining traction until a buddy of mine called me, and he said, "Hey, buddy." Well, and now let me back up a second. I got to give you some more because I'm trying to think. Let me see if I have headphones. Hold on.
Okay.
No headphones, but we'll be all right. One of the most successful direct sales companies I was in was out of Texas, and it was nutraceuticals. But their stuff was so cutting edge, the medical world was threatened by it. So it was always an uphill battle whenever you're in health and nutrition. Now it's kind of changed. It's become more complimentary, but back then you were crazy and you were super threatening. And I used to fly in these guys from Dallas and pack out auditoriums, and there'd be oncology departments in there, and there'd be, I've done it.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of success, but after the one company fell apart, I had jumped in the other company to be prudent. A buddy of mine calls me and says, "Hey man, you got a minute? I want to pitch something to you." Now, let me tell your audience this. I'm sure what I just shared sounds a little bit scatterbrained, but for 17 years prior to Rodan and Fields, I had spent 80% of my working career in direct sales companies, and I had seen a lot of success in some of them. But some have a shelf life. Some require you to be the message, not the messenger. So if the weight is on you as the message, you have a company that can't last long term, because once the charisma and the energy is spent, a company still has to hold water. And so when I got the call, a buddy of mine said, "Hey man, you got a minute? I want to pitch something to you." I said, "Yeah, what you got?" He said, "I know you just joined this other company and you're growing it strong." He said, "But have you heard what these proactive doctors are going to be doing by launching a new direct sales company and going by bringing dermatological answers to the bathroom sink? And I've never been in the industry before, but you have. What do you think?"
Oh, wow.
I froze. I was mad as a snake. I was mad as a snake when he called me, because I knew immediately that I was going to quit the one I had been pursuing and growing aggressively. And I was going to jump into this full force. And here's why. If Mercedes-Benz decided tomorrow that they were going to go direct sales, you wouldn't argue it.
No.
Lexus, you wouldn't argue it. If Apple Computer decided to be a direct sales model, you wouldn't argue it, or an affiliate model of some sort. I mean, half the real estate companies that are out there, the fastest growing ones in the world right now, are all network marketing structured, every one of them. And I said, "John, if 50% of this is true, we're going to," and disclaimer, right? This is my personal story, right? I'm not making any claims, but I said, if this is half true, we're going to make, my exact words were, we're going to make a fortune. Because if you can smile and point and educate on something that already holds water, then you maintain the messenger position. You don't have to become the message. When you're the message, it's an extremely steep uphill battle, because you have to spin the plates. You have to sell it. You have to handle objections and convince people and blah, 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 and exposure. You have to have a lot of exposure in order to get street cred and credibility amongst the rank and file of the business world. But when those doctors mentioned that they were going to go in the direct sales model, I said, "Well, John, they're already proven.
Yeah.
They're not on trial. They're not clowns. They've passed all the medical scrutiny historically. The stuff has to work. If they're doing what they're doing, that means they've already covered all their legal and all of their compliance bases, they just don't have any traction in direct sales. But I do.
Yeah, you do.
And when I got the call, the interesting thing is the company was actually considering stopping the model and doing something else with the company, because it was just a few months old. They didn't have any growth, and they weren't a direct sales company. They were doctors that had tremendous credibility globally, but they had never done this with those products in a new model, et cetera. And I said, well, the tail wags the dog in a direct sales company. The dog does not wag the tail. The field is everything if the company has it together.
Yeah.
And I just told him, I said, give me the microphone. And what we didn't realize is 4 of us at a Dunkin' Donuts, August 26, 2008. Terrible timing. The market had crashed. My wife said, please, dear God, don't tell me you're going to go do this. Go get a real job. Right?
Oh my gosh.
And I said, babe, I will not get a real job. I will. And again, people get weird when you talk like this, but I said, I'll bring you home within the year. And she just said, okay, I love you and I trust you with everything. And we joke about this all the time, but she goes, I don't want to hear about it. Don't tell me about it when I come home. Don't ask me to get on your calls. I don't want to come to your meetings, and don't tell anybody at work about it. She goes, because I'm growing our baby. The market has crashed. I'm in the mortgage industry, and I just can't handle it. And see, here's the thing that I always want people to understand about that, because we're really big on spouses, is she did what I couldn't because she was strong and disciplined. So I could do what she couldn't, where I was strong and disciplined.
Yeah.
She anchored the fort while I was side saddling it to pioneer the territory. And then when she did finally leave within that year, I always tell this story. It was several months after she had not had to work there anymore. We were done. And she was in a grocery store. I believe she says it was on a Thursday at about 10 o'clock with the baby, with both babies. And I think from the time she was 14 until the time of that, which was 13 and a half years ago, she had never not had pressure to provide and take care of everybody. And she had died to her dreams, all of her goals, all of her hopes, because she had to be realistic. And then you have all the codependencies of families and all the neurotic stuff in relationships and all the weird stuff that just drags down dreams and vision. And so she said she had a hard time even checking out. And that night we were laying in bed, and she was laying on my left shoulder, and she always lays on that left shoulder. She turns over, and sometimes when you're asleep, you kind of shake. Yeah. You kind of do that night, the little night jerk.
Yep.
She did like that. And I looked over and I said, wow, she's asleep. And then I felt something warm on my shoulder.
Oh.
And she was crying. And she was that silent cry where you're getting delivered of something. Yeah. Where it's just waves. And she says, I want to thank you for everything you've done, because today's the first time since I was a young lady that I ever had a rush of emotions where I actually believed I could revisit everything I had died to.
Wow.
And so when that happened, I was unstoppable. And even when I was working hard that first few months, I would, pick her up and we'd, go get lunch, and I'd be with the kids and she'd go back into work. Her coworkers thought I was crazy. They said a lot of interesting things. They would say, gosh, I can't even believe you're married to such an unstable man. I mean, people would say things like that. Unstable, you'd hear stuff like this. And when I heard that, well, she would always say, listen, you may think my husband's crazy, but when he finds the right thing, he says he's going to be a millionaire. Now, we all know that term millionaire means nothing anymore relative, because you need at least $1 million just to break even in life, because the average person makes $1 million in a 30-year career. So a millionaire doesn't mean that you've earned, what I'm saying? So even that term, but it's still a powerful stake in the ground. It's a mile marker, if you will. And she goes, but he'll do something great. And so when I heard that, every day I'd come in there and say, you're not going to see my wife very often. And they thought I was just crazy. And when I heard that, I said, you know what? I'm going to bring you even out of your job even sooner. I said, they're all going to eat it. And
Fire.
oh, because of this, I gotta show you this. I gotta show you this.
Yeah. That just lit so much fire underneath you.
You did. Can you see this? Hold on. It's backwards, probably.
Yeah, it is backwards. University.
Nope. It says
No?
never miss a moment.
Oh, never miss a moment. That's incredible.
That's part of my, the branding that we do and stuff. But you have to design your life on purpose to never miss a moment. You have to be deliberate and intentional. You have to turn off the opinions of people. You have to outlive your critics. You have to realize that nobody is going to take care of your family like you will. And you also have to realize, and this is a big one, you're probably disposable at the career you work at.
Yeah.
Unless you own the company, you're disposable. You can work 20 years, give it 110%, miss ball games, go through several marriages, whatever the price to pay for success is, and you will get a box on your desk in 5 minutes. And that's the thing we have to realize. People would argue, well, Gabriel, you guys don't own this company. I said, of course not. I use it as an engine. I don't worship it. It's not my identity. I don't live and breathe it. I don't walk around as a proselyte. I allow it to do what it's supposed to do. The whole world desperately needs good skincare and now hair care, thank God. We're going to be number one in that too globally. You know that because we were already number one in everything else. And it's not for women. A lot of the times the narrative pushes that this is empowering women. I'm like, I love that part, but let's not forget that this company is bigger than that. It's empowering people.
It is.
And when you empower people that take a direct sales company and allow it to be a leveraging model without it consuming your identity, it's very, very powerful and very appealing. And when two people work together, I always ask folks, what does your spouse think about it? And you get all kinds of kickback, or you'll ask sometimes the guys, because we are predominantly female, they'll ask the guys and they'll say, I'm giving you a long answer. You told me to hit hard. I'm going to just hit hard.
I love it.
Ask the husbands, I'm like, so what do you think? I mean, do you understand the comp plan? Do you understand how the money works? Oh, no, that's my wife's thing. And I go, really? Yeah. That's my wife's thing? Huh. I said, you know what? If I could give you one piece of advice, man to man, I always tell the guys this. I said, you need to understand how the money works, and you need to quit saying my wife's thing and say my wife and I. Yeah. Absolutely. My wife and I, my husband and I, those statements are so powerful because what it also says is when you see one spouse doing it, the other one's not, or one is using silent control, just trying to see if it's going to all work out so they can say, I told you so, because they're so conditioned of the traditional work world that that's the only pedigree you should follow. And you get all of this stuff that happens in relationships. A lot of the times people say, well, don't most people fail in direct sales companies? I'm like, most people fail at everything. What are you talking about? It's because of the neurosis between the ears. It's the relationships at home. It's the silent control. It's all the games. It's not being unified. So I say never again say anything other than my wife and I or my husband and I, and just allow, because it shows that you don't have buy-in. If somebody asks you about your business, I've trained heavily on this. I've gone whole days on this relational subject of how entrepreneurs can work together in a home-based business, or how spouses can work together. And my wife and I are pretty brutal about this because it's so important. But when you can eliminate that language and you can make it we, then what happens is it shows buy-in to everybody else too, and it doesn't show a divided home. Yeah. It's very important to understand that. And once people understand the model, how the money is made, they might be shocked, because I'm finding, and I'll shut up on this first answer, I'm finding that your spouse knows nothing about your company. Uh-oh. I'm right by the firehouse, so hold on.
You're okay.
Hold on. This is real world. See, this is how we make money, guys, just in the real world.
Yeah.
I don't have to move. Okay, he's good. But once people really understand it, you'll find that it's just beautiful to be in agreement. Because if one spouse is doing everything they can to try to better the home, I think the other spouse better understand what it is they're doing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would agree with you on that. And we did have a question come in. So
Yeah.
Gabriel, I'm going to have you answer it.
And I can go on for 3 hours, guys, because I'm fired up.
You are fired up, and I love this. And maybe we'll have to ask you back so you can elaborate a little bit more. But we have a question. Can you tell us the best book to read to educate ourselves on the direct sales / MLM industry?
Besides mine?
Yeah. This can be a plug for your book. That's totally fine.
No, I did write a book, but mine's not a how-to book. Okay, let me.
No, yours is a mindset book.
Yeah, this is the self-sabotage thing that happens, the emotional ceilings, the self-sabotage, the being able to celebrate everybody else's successes but not your own, all of the mental games that people play, and that's really there it is. There it is. And that's, so I wrote that book specifically to heal people so they could come out of the gate and have nothing holding them back.
Yeah.
One book that we would hand out, and this is a very encouraging book, and I do suggest you guys get cut it out, because I get countless messages of people saying, and they say this: I've read every book in the industry, and this is what's needed to be addressed all along, because the how-to is easy if this is worked out.
Yeah.
Shameless plug. Thank you for even asking that question and actually having it there. That's pretty exciting. But there's a book that we used to read. There's actually two books that I think are brilliant. One of them is called Beach Money by Jordan Adler. We probably sold 10,000, 50,000 books for this guy. Jordan Adler, Adler, Beach Money. There's two versions. There's Beach Money and then More Beach Money. I think the first Beach Money is a better book.
Okay.
And then honestly, a man that's done a brilliant job in the industry is Eric Worre. And
GoPro.
Yeah, I look forward to being on stage with them one day. But GoPro is brilliant because he's teaching you to treat the industry like a business and professionally. And that's what I always say too. I say at least treat your home-based business with half of the intensity you do the current job that you work for that likely sees you as disposable.
Yeah.
And if you think this is a lesser business than a W-2 job, you're just not informed. It is a 1099 world. Everything has changed. I just walked in the coffee shop, and if you know where we are in Nashville, I mean, this whole town is entrepreneurs and music writers, and producers and celebrities and Bentleys and blue jeans, and every coffee shop there's somebody doing a deal on something, and it's all reaching international. It's not just music. And the whole thing is full of people that work for themselves in the middle of the day. Mm-hmm. So it's just a new world. And once you understand, and I just did a video on this on YouTube. I don't know if you saw this, but I would love for everybody watching this to watch the video. If you go to YouTube and you pull up Gabriel Sedlak, I'm in a Santa hat in front of a Christmas tree holding 2 trash bags. And I said, what they told you about your business is a load of garbage.
Yeah.
And because what the other problem is that when it comes to this industry, you'll never engage it unless you understand that it has the capacity to change your life.
Sure.
And this is the problem. Most relegate it to a hobbyist, to fringe, to occasional, and it could not be a bigger mistake. Because, people work 20 years, like I said, they never miss a sick day, and they hang their entire life, their mortgage, where their kids go to school, their entire lives, and they put that kind of faith in a company. But with a home-based business, they're like, I don't know, I'll ask a few friends, and if it all works out, then I guess it was meant to happen. And that stuff that's garbage thinking. It'll never be anything. And then you'll just say, yeah, I make a little money here and there, and that's what I do. But we would never treat a traditional job like that in a million years, because we'd be fired. We know we're paid for performance. How come we don't realize that in direct sales? You're paid for performance.
Yeah, it's the same thing, because you can't take weeks off of a traditional job and still get a paycheck. You have to consistently show up and work the business. That's the only way to actually get a paycheck.
Dead right. Or if I came to your house, right? I woke you up in the morning. There's you and your husband. You're hanging out. And I go, hey guys, listen, I we miss you at work, but I mean, I know you're tired, but hey, listen, if you guys will work and do a little business today, I'll give you a bonus. I'll buy you something. I'll take you to work and go get you coffee. And you know what? I'll do it all week long. I mean, I know you. I mean, why do we beg people? Because we've been trained that this is a hobbyist business. We've been trained that it's fringe. We've been trained by the threatened business world that doesn't understand the empowerment of people. Even biblically, when you empower the people, everything changes. It's not
Right.
hierarchy and laity. It's empowering the body, the people. Governments need to understand that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big one. It's the whole world opposite side. But when you can empower people, so we just don't beg people to do it, and you shouldn't. But the only reason people operate in a fringe level, or they act embarrassed, or they say I don't want to bother anybody, is because they don't understand what they're. Whoops. My camera mount went off. They don't understand the power of the business,
Absolutely.
and so they would never treat it that way if they understood it properly. I'll just put it like that. So we're covering a lot of ground on this because I want people watching this that have been struggling forget Rodan & Fields. I'm not talking about that company, all right? I educate the whole industry.
Right. This is the entire industry. So,
right.
Gabriel, I do want to ask you though, based on what the current climate was because we're talking industry, right? So in 2008,
because not everybody's going to be in your company. Get used to it. There's a lot of, right? There's a lot of great companies out there. They're not all created equal. We have to understand that too. Yet they're not all going to be in your business. So I speak to the industry. I educate the industry. I coach the industry. I write courses and books to the industry, and people ask us for help because of that. So I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid here as far as just RF is the only way to go. It's a great way.
It is a great way, but there are other options because we all have different tastes and feels and what we like. So this might not align for you, but considering when you started in Rodan & Fields specifically in 2008, which was an economic downturn, it was the recession. A lot of us remember that. What similarities do you see in the industries or in the industry now with what our current climate is in 2020 to 2022 and now what we're going into in 2023?
That's a fantastic question. There's a tremendous amount of similarities, but you also have a society that's far more duped than they were in 08. In 08, things were far more black and white. Now, whatever's put before somebody, they drink the Kool-Aid and they believe it. And it's unfortunate that it doesn't take that long for society just to, they just react to whatever's being said. And so here's why I say this. In 08, when the market crashed, there was a lot of macro reasons and global reasons why that happened. When that happened, it was so sudden that, I remember some of the jokes, and we live in a very affluent county. It's one of the top 10 in the country. There's just people just operate differently, but they were also affected very hard. And see, before everybody would just pretend, how are you doing? Oh, great. How are you doing? Great. How are you doing? As they drive up with their Chardonnay yoga pants in the golf cart at the country club. I get it. Everything is fine. Everything's, the husband walks up in his new truck and everybody's. When 08 happened, people were like, oh my God, you lost your house too? So did we. Oh my gosh, your husband lost his. So did we. We had to downsize. So people were very honest about the urgency of needing something else and fast. Now it's almost like nobody wants to believe it because the macro indicators are exponentially more than they ever were in 08. We just haven't seen, it's like a seismic wave of an earthquake. It hits and then it takes a while for the waves to hit. And so once the waves to hit, then people are reacting. But the reason that direct sales is so brilliant, number one, is it just gives you a bit more control of your life.
Sure.
Let's just call it what it is. Not everybody's going to go off into the sunset and make a fortune. They're not going to. They should. It's there. I say fortune, it's all relative. I mean, to somebody, $5,000 a month may be a fortune. To somebody else, 500 grand a month may be a fortune. But what you're finding with these times is people are now. '08 distraction. I'm sorry, 2020 distractions, 2021 distractions. Well, the news feed. Now it's like, wait a minute, maybe I should do something. But here's what 2020 and 2021 did, is it finally convinced the world, where even prior to that, 2-3 years ago, you were still a nutcase if you were in a home-based business.
Sure.
Now, you're crazy if you're not. Everybody realized that home gigs is the way to go. Except for right now, I'm always with my kids. We're always in the car. We're always out and about. We are down in Orlando the other day at a dance competition, and we're doing work. We don't ever miss a beat. We never miss a moment with our families. But I'm thinking, it's just finally the masses are seeing, when you talk about a home-based business, they're inclining their ear.
Yeah.
With the intention of listening. Not just saying, oh, I'm so happy for you. That's so great. I'm so great you're having, oh, I'm so glad for you. Yeah, that's awesome. And you hear that a lot. Now they're like, really? Okay.
Yeah.
So I think 2008 and the last few years, the parallels are urgency. The parallels are home-based businesses are knocking at their door again. And the urgency is, now it makes more sense, when even back then, it was almost like a last resort. Now it's a first resort. And that's a fantastic shift, because it is now a 1099 world. It is not a W-2 world anymore. It is the new business normal. And like it or lump it, that's the way it is. And people's opinions really don't change that. It's even more efficient for companies to have an army of empowered independents out there doing the work than it is for them to have a $50 million infrastructure of a building and all the insurances and all of the infrastructure. It just makes more sense. Cut the checks, send the products, be quiet, empower them.
Incredible. Well said. And I love what you talked about too, is the differences is the people's mentality, because a lot of people could look at it in different ways in the economic status and all of that. But like you are talking about people. And I think that's what's so important here, is a lot of people are losing sight, is that this is a people business. This is a people opportunity. It doesn't have anything to do with what you really are selling. It's about the people. So I love that. And can you talk a little bit now, Gabriel, about how you navigate the different seasons in a business? Because we all know there's ups and downs, like where some people were really up in 2020 and now they might be facing a downturn coming up. And what does that mean really? And how do you navigate those since you've been in business for so long?
So I had to open the door. It's so hot in the car. Because if I turn it on and I don't have the Bluetooth on, this car is very loud and the exhaust rumbles real bad. So it makes all this noise. So I cut the car off, opened the window, but I forgot that the sun just came out and getting hot. Would you do me one favor?
Yeah.
Would you ask me that question one more time?
Sure.
Please. Yeah.
Absolutely. So because you've been in business for so long, how do you navigate the ups and downs that you traditionally would have in a business? Like in the upturn, how do you navigate that? And then when you go into the downturn, how do you also navigate that?
Okay. That's assuming, and I love the question, that's assuming that everybody's going to behave like cattle.
Yeah.
When the grass is dry, people are going to nibble. When the grass is thick, they're going to eat a lot. And the biggest thing that is different in any business, saturation is a myth.
Yeah.
Economic downturns and upturns may have some macro effect, but people have the choice to become a thermostat or a thermometer.
I love this.
Yeah. If they become a thermometer, then they simply repeat the fact that it's a downturn or it's an upturn or times are good or the politics are this or the economy is that or the gas prices are this. And so they they behave accordingly based upon the temperature because they've postured themselves as a thermometer. The ups and downs can be completely eliminated if you posture yourself as a thermostat. Mm. And that has to do with 100% here. If you are waiting for your team to do something, if you're waiting to find your hero in the business because after all, so-and-so had success because they found their champion, you don't know the backstory behind the backstory behind the backstory behind the backstory. It's usually never what you think it is. You just see their blue ribbons.
Right.
But you didn't understand all of the drama and the soap opera that was mixed in it that nobody likes to talk about. Right? I can, all over the industry, our company, everywhere. I mean, I know all kinds of stories where it was just different than maybe what you think. And even for us, people think that we just kind of magically did it because we were first, we made all this money. I'm like, you are crazy. I got arrows in my back. I didn't have a social circle. My wife didn't want to hear about it. We didn't know anybody. We didn't have a lot of money at the time because we were low on resources because we were taking care of several extended family members. I mean, I met people organically at coffee shops, in the malls and stores, which I do not recommend doing. It's horrible. If you have good social circles, you can build a direct sales company faster. That's why you will often see people that are lifted high quickly in a company is because the materialization of their social circles worked out more favorably. That's not to say that it wouldn't have if what I'm about to say didn't happen. They decided to do something with it. Whether you have social circles or don't, whether you know anybody or you don't, whether you think it's saturated or you don't, whether you think it's a good time, uptime, downtime, or a downturn, you have got to be the person that holds one posture in direct sales. You want to make a lot of money in this industry, you do one thing. Exposure, 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 exposure. Quit trying to motivate your people, quit trying to motivate your teams. Instead, be the person that creates the environment in which they can be motivated in. But if you carry the weight of wanting it for them more than they want it for themselves, then you're going to blame your organization. You're going to blame your company. You're going to blame everything else. If you are mindful, there was one of the companies in our industry used to say this all the time years ago. And this is 40, 50 years ago, and I think they still say it. They would say, like, I'd talk to you and you would tell me your goals. And I would say, great, that's fantastic. How many times did you share the plan?
0.
And I say, well, I'm thinking about it. I went to the Office Depot and I got matching staplers and I got a new computer and I'm preparing to prepare and I'm putting together a strategy plan. And I'm meeting with some folks over coffee to organize an advancement plan so we can begin to strategize about having meetings, and then we're going to get ready to prepare for. How many times did you show the plan? 0. Well, then your goals are unrealistic. You'll never reach them, because just like in a traditional job, if you gave me that as your answer, they would say, what are your goals? How many people are in the pipeline? How many clients did you reach out to? Sorry, big truck, hold on. Perfect. I've actually done big trainings right next to Disney rides. I love that. I have. Or my kids would hold the phone while I'd be driving down the road back in the day. But we have to go back to exposure, because if you ask the average direct salesperson how many people they've shared the message with that are new, first of all, they don't know what message to share because it's always haphazard and off the cuff and roundabout. They're kind of bashful for the most part, so they don't. I wouldn't follow you across the street. I mean, I would. If you have discernment, you can see through stuff and you don't always have to read the person that way. But I'm just saying, respectively, some people treat their businesses so bashfully and so ashamed and timidly that you're wondering why it's not growing. Would you follow you?
Yeah, not
as a leader come on, right? So you have to be that 800-pound gorilla when you walk through the door. But people would say this. They'll say, well, Gabriel, I even wrote about this. They say, well, once I get some money under my belt and I get a certain rank and I start feeling better about my thing, then I'll feel more confident about. And I'm like, well, that's the mirage in Arizona when you're looking at the flat road that you never reach.
Sure.
because once you hit that goal, you're going to have some other, ethereal thing that you feel is going to be your next measurement. Before I get this, here's a neat story. So and this is answering your question.
Okay.
So I'm in Huntsville, Alabama at a meeting, and I'd been in the business 8 months, 9 months. And we were just making by that time, before the end of the year was out, it was about 5 figures. We were starting to hit 5 figures.
Okay.
Anyway, so I was at this meeting, and the regional director at the time flew in from California, and she goes, "So Gabriel, what product are you using, and what's going on?" And I said, and she just looked at me, and I said, "What?" She goes, "Are you serious?" I said, "What?" I said, "Look, I'll get some." And you guys got to hear this. Everybody has a special little recipe going on in their lives, right? We were so maxed out that any dime we made was digging us out of the hole and was paying for all of the responsibility. People say, "Oh, I wish I was making," when they hear things and what they think we've made or whatever. They say, "I wish I had your problems." I'm like, "Well, I wish you had my bills."
Yeah.
Right? It's all relative. Some companies have $100 million overhead every single month, right? So it's all relative. Anyway, when she asked me that question, I had 250 people in my organization before I ever bought the products or even had business cards.
Wow.
Now, they were in the house. My wife was using them, but I was just building. And people say, "Well, Gabriel, I couldn't sell anything I didn't absolutely believe in." I understand the argument, but you didn't, people say, "Well, I would have to first see, if it was something I'd want to do, and I just don't have any time, and I'm too busy, and I don't know if I want to do that, and I could never sell anything I didn't absolutely believe in." And they do all of this brutal qualifying of your opportunity when you're sharing it to them. And yet, when they got the career they got, for the corporation they got, that's asking for everything in their lives to be put on hold for the cause of the company, they put their resume out there, they did 10 interviews, and they were looking at wage. They weren't saying, I wonder if the moral code, and if I identify with IT or with software or the widget or the ball bearings or the transactional components that this company makes, or the plastic that this company makes, or we sell insurance, or we sell healthcare. And I'm like, are you taking the drugs? Are you using the drugs? Did you look at all of them and screw? No, they have to pay the bills. So for me, this is part of that answer. I didn't let my emotional affinity of the products get in the way. My wife would have eaten the products.
They're so good.
I adore them now. It's my favorite. I mean, the hair care, I can't wait to take showers. I can't wait to wash my hair. I can't wait to use all the products, and I have for years and years. But initially, I didn't have that emotional affinity. I knew they weren't clowns. I knew the products worked. The world needed them, and everybody needed a business model. And I was so dead focused on that I didn't wait to have an emotional epiphany before I represented a company that I didn't absolutely believe in. When I did believe in it, I just wasn't emotional about it. It was an engine that I strapped on my back to propel my family, and it changed the company. When we said yes, it changed the whole company.
I know.
Corporate came out 9 times the first year here. The doctors did, and we didn't know that, but those coffee shop meetings, it became the epicenter for all the growth in the country in the beginning.
Incredible.
Hallelujah, right? A lot of lives have been set free. I mean, your yes means a lot, but you just don't want to sabotage with stuff like that, It's my favorite products in the world now, but in the beginning, I was just building, and I wasn't thinking about it.
Yeah. So you didn't let a lot of that affect you, is
No.
what you're saying, and you just stayed consistent and stayed on the mission of what you were doing, sharing this opportunity because you knew that it could change lives because of the legacy of the doctors.
And I was a vision caster, and I was like an apologist in the front of the room or wherever I was talking, and I was helping people realize, here's their credibility, here's their track record, here's what they've done, here's why they're doing it, here's what it can do for you. Let's find out what you need. Where's your life at? Now let's understand that this can actually be the bridge to fix that. or it can be a stepping stone for whatever your calling is. If you're called to do something great, allow multiple businesses to drive that engine for you so you have the freedom. Holly and I make money from several places.
Yeah.
We make a
Smart.
lot with Rodan Fields, and we make, I don't want to get into it. A lot is relative, but because people need to hear this. The FTC is going to hate you. You can't make claims. I'm not making claims. I'm just telling you, we've been very successful according to what we think that is.
Sure. ...
And it's been a tremendous engine. I just didn't let all of that stuff get in the way. And I think what happens is people wait for ideal circumstances. They wait for the ideal wallet. They wait for the ideal, well, I'm going to get in and I'm going to share the products with a few people. And if people, say yes quickly, maybe I'll do it. What if everybody you respect and know could care less about it because they like you the way you are? They don't want you to be an entrepreneur. And for the approval of your inner circles to say, create the parade line that you can march on every day to go build your business, you're crazy. They're not going to do that. Friends and family will not join you until strangers celebrate you.
Yeah.
And even then, they're probably not going to join you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, Gabriel, I want to let you know that somebody commented, I cannot wait to show this to my hubby. Thank you, Gabe, for always sharing the male perspective with such fire. So I just want to let you know that comment came in. And the last question I have
Well, hold your last question because I got something for the hubby.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
All right, this is awesome, and I'm talking to guys or girls. This is business, right? So it's not isolated to anybody. But every wealth model is a leveraging model. The banking industry takes your money, gives you very little for it, goes and buys in investments, and lends out the money 50 different ways and makes fortunes with it, but then gives you a little bit to hold your money. Banking industry. The insurance industry takes in everybody's payments, builds gigantic coffers, and pays out what they have to, but they're always bringing in more than they're paying out. McDonald's is not worried about selling hamburgers. They're worried about corners selling hamburgers.
Yeah.
They're in the real estate business. The burger is a byproduct. The real estate industry, the real estate broker understands that if you get on fire realtors under the brokerage, you get a little piece of the action. It creates leverage. The parent company understands the more brokers they have, the more the parent company makes. Everything in the world that creates wealth, every investment, the crypto world, the banking world, whatever's hot right now, it's all about leverage. Even farmers understand this. A farmer understands that if you cut open an apple and you count 12 seeds, you don't just have 12 seeds. No. You take those 12 seeds, you plant them in the ground, and then the work begins because you have to fight off the pests. You have to make sure you cultivate it, allow it to take root. It's again, a biblical precedent where you have the parable of the sower. And so a farmer or somebody with a mentality that understands how wealth works will look at that apple and see 300 acres full of apples.
Incredible.
On trees. And so this is why this industry is so important. It's a wealth model. You come in, most will become customer. Well, I'm saying most won't do it. But then there's another number that will be your customers, and most of your business will be customers. Some join you in the business, a few will be running with it, and a few, even less, will be your champions. Isn't that what happens in every corporation? Hire, fire, hire, fire, hire, fire, in and out, in and out. Some go up, some go on to run the company, et cetera, et cetera. It's the way everything works. So direct sales is a leveraging model where I make a few percent off of people in 3 countries, in all 50 states, and in all kinds of territories. A little bit. Because I created the infrastructure and the groundwork, and I'm always pouring onto the team, and I'm, with the megaphone and sharing the information and trainings and encouragements. So I get a little piece of that. Would you rather have 100% of your own efforts, or would you rather have a few percent of hundreds of people's, or thousands, or tens of thousands of people's efforts? That is the key to understanding why the industry is great. People say, Gabriel, do you sell the products or do you sell the business? The answer is yes.
To it all.
The answer is yes. They're all, people are going to naturally fall into place. It's like a money machine. You know, you go to the local grocery store, you take your bag full of change and you throw it in that machine, and the machine separates pennies, dimes, nickels, and quarters, right? And it spits out the nonsense. Your business is going to naturally spit out the nonsense. Most are going to be pennies, some will be nickels, a few will be dimes, even less will be quarters, but the quarters are worth way more when it comes to not in value as a human being. I'm talking value to how they drive the business, because they'll do 25 times what these guys will do all day long. And so that is why, in my opinion, every husband better say, that's not my wife's thing, this is our thing, we do this, and get the comp plan in front of their face and learn it. Learn the money. Learn the money. You don't think that Red End Fields or every other direct sales company is in business? No, they just love people and they just want to help people.
They're in business.
They're in business to make money. So don't you think that they're not going to reward you heavily to make them more money by creating a larger network that makes more money? And if you can create a network that makes more money, you're going to have more options to do more things. That's why it's called network marketing, because you're given a piece of a network. It's brilliant. Who wants to work and get 100% of a 60-hour work week? Not me.
Not me.
I get paid on tens of thousands of hours a week, even if it's a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was for the guys.
That's awesome. No, Gabriel, you are a wealth of information. This has been so eye-opening.
But you got another question, right?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
And I know that a lot of people are going to watch the replay because, you know, people are still working traditional jobs. But what advice
Which I want to encourage them. Listen to me. I hope you guys know this that are watching this. In no way, shape, or form am I poking at. I just want you to understand, if you have dreams, if you have hopes, and your career will take you there, don't you dare touch direct sales.
Yeah.
But if what you're doing will not take you there and you know it, I highly suggest that you allow leverage to create a wealth model for your family, whatever that means to you. That's how I always handle that. But go ahead.
That's amazing. Okay, so what advice would you have for someone who is considering direct sales or network marketing, any opportunity? Because we're just going to keep this generic, not necessarily Red End Fields, but what advice would you have for that person who is watching this or has watched this and is like, I wonder, what would they do?
Well, okay, let's start with this. The reason that most people join a direct sales company is because somebody they know approached them.
Sure.
So that approach and that relationship bridge is hard to think beyond. Okay. Many people are going to join the company that approached them because that's the company that approached them. But if that's happening, you've joined a company, fantastic, run with it. People say, well, all businesses work if you work them. I would argue against that. Some are much harder to grow than others, and you want to make sure that there's sustainability, retention rate, professionalism, levels of excellence. There's just a lot of stuff that definitely separates direct sales companies. And just like car manufacturers, home builders, if you ever had a lousy home builder, you know that all homes aren't built the same, even though they all look nice in a corner from a distance. When you get up there, you see all the imperfections. So make sure you're brave enough to ask the tough questions, because that may be the company you should join. But it may be that it exposes you to an industry that you need to explore so that you can find the company to join. Number one, that's real important, because if you say yes just because somebody asked you to do it and you don't know how to say no, so saying yes is easier than saying no. Let me fix this little mount again. Why is it not? Okay. See, this is good right here. I love it. All right. Then what happens is if there's just a lot of factors that you didn't know about when you first joined, and you don't see the traction quick enough, what you don't want to do is sour yourself on the industry because of a less than excellent experience. I hope I'm being
Sure.
I hope I'm being diplomatic here.
You, yeah,
I mean, I've been in other direct sales companies and left them cold turkey to join other ones.
sure.
You just have to find what's going to be best for you, and whatever that is. So number one, don't be afraid to ask tough questions. I just got a text. The guys are trying to sell me a new LX600 up there at the Lexus place. It's so funny. He's like, Gabriel, it's yours if you want it. And I got a black one up here if you want to drive it. And I'm like, okay. So, anyway, we love them. We've had a lot of the LX. It's a great one. And the Mercedes, because our company has Mercedes. And not to sidetrack, I love cars too much. I can't talk about cars. So number one, make sure that you're not afraid to ask the tough questions, because you're about to put yourself into and extend yourself to share about a company. So just make sure you understand it. Number two, you seen those little globby things you get out of the gum machine? It looks like an octopus, and kids, they throw it at the wall, yes. It slowly crawls down the wall.
Yeah.
Don't be the person that says, all right, I'll join, which takes an act of Congress and pulling teeth, because somehow you think that joining the company is everything. No, joining the company only gives you a key to a door to a world that now you have ways to build, either getting a discount as a customer, as a consultant for the products, and or the opportunity to build a business. Realize you joining is a doorway. It's not a destination.
Right.
And treat your home-based business with half of the intensity if you have to, if it's all you can muster. This, as you do with the current job that you're working. Because if you treat it flippantly, people will be more hesitant to listen to you.
Right.
I'm finding that the shyness, the softness, you ever shake somebody's hand, it's just like a clammy blob?
Gross.
When that happens, as you're building a business, there's no buy-in, there's no conviction. Remember, people follow conviction. And make sure you're not a salesman and you're not a spin doctor, because you can impress people with language, but after about 5 minutes, you better know something, and you better not burn the bridges by trying to sell it. Make sure the company holds water. Ask the tough questions. Don't treat it flippantly. I say do your due diligence, but most people don't know how to do due diligence, so they end up just falling prey to whatever company's in front of their face.
Right.
And the other thing is make darn sure you are using resources, materials, books, courses, training, leaders. Follow people that are not playing around. They will save you years of pain. Years of pain. One thing that we love about that wisdom, and there's a lot of people I get my wisdom from and ideas from. We all get something from somebody else. It doesn't just come out of us, right?
Sure.
And the one thing that I really encourage people is, when it comes to the years that you can save, not doing it on your own, make sure you're humble enough to submit yourself to somebody that's successful, that can say, first, watch me do it. Now you do it. Now we'll do it. No, watch me, we'll do it, you do it, and then now you can do it. Whatever the process is there. You guys have heard that before.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to put yourself in a position of being obstinate, not coachable, soft about it, apologetic about it, and then have this thing slip through your fingers because of that. Way too many people have lost a fortune and a future and a life of freedom and options for their children and legacy, because they took what was in their hands and they treated it poorly. Don't treat it like 5 seeds or 15 seeds. Treat it like 300 acres. I can't encourage you enough about that. You just can't, like professional ball players, professional pitchers, professional hitters, whether you're a wrestler, you're a race car driver, everybody has a mentor that's a pro.
Mhm.
Find a mentor that's a pro and do whatever it takes to learn or be trained by them. You've got to get there, because if you can, I love this. We've had, and people say this all the time, well, Gabriel, you guys were first. I say, it's actually a better time to join a company years down the road because all the infrastructure's been laid.
Right.
But I always say the top earners in our company joined many years after all of us did.
I know
And
you said that before.
I've said it a million times. And the people in my organization that make a lot more than we do came in years after we did. They did it more efficiently, faster, with less pain, with more action-oriented and income-producing behaviors rather than the emotional game and trying to navigate. We were looking at maps and trying to navigate the land. Now they can just drive down the road, turn left, turn right, get to their destination. That's the difference of having a roadmap. And so I love the fact that people come in and can blow us away in income faster than we ever did and coming years later. That's why we have to understand. And then one last thing. People are always looking for this weird concept called ground floor. Garbage.
Yep.
Garbage. There are ground floor opportunities, quote unquote. That means you're first. And yes, it can be huge. But people act as though that's a formula. It's not a formula. Ground floor doesn't mean anything because saturation's a myth, right? They sold millions of cell phones every month, yet everybody in the world has one. They say they sell millions of refrigerators, yet everybody has one. You know, they sell millions of houses, and yet, you know, there's always a circulation of people coming in and out of opportunities. They're retiring, they're passing away, they're coming into the workforce. There's all this stuff. And so it is a better time to join a company now when you're ready, because even real estate. I've heard people that don't become realtors because they say, well, you be a realtor first, and if you make money, then I'll do it. I'm like, that's so dumb. 98%, what is it? 98% of all real estate agents never sell their first home.
Yeah.
They get the license, but they never sell their first home. So why don't we demonize the real estate industry? You would never do that.
Nope.
Right? Don't most people not make it in direct sales? Well, most people don't do anything. Or most people don't do anything as professional golfers. Most people have challenges in marriage. Most people have a lot of things. So just make sure you're not reading your buddies or your consensus or broken thinking to be the measurement in which how far you're going to push down the gas pedal. You be the champion regardless if a soul has made 10 cents or not. Before I made 10 cents in this company or in any direct sales company I ever was in, I always walked in the door like I had made millions.
Incredible.
Did you fake it till you make it? Not hardly. I was confident in me more than the company.
That's amazing. Gabriel, you have shared so much, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. This has been so eye-opening and incredible, absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for joining me for Tuesday Talks. So if you guys are catching the replay, I'm going to put this on Facebook and Instagram. Let us know in the comments that you're here. Let us know what questions you have. Gabriel will be happy to answer them, or I'll answer them, whichever. We'll tag team and answer your questions. It can be about anything in the industry, not even Rodan and Fields related. We'd be happy to coach you on anything that you need help with.
Entrepreneurialism in general, being brave, stepping out on your own. I mean, it's all the same family of business. It's just get out there and do something to change your life. And I hope I haven't been lisping. But it's funny, right before I got on video with you,
yeah,
a part of a little tooth in the back broke, and there's a sharp corner that keeps hitting my tongue. And so I hope I'm not talking weird.
Oh my gosh.
I'm going to go to the dentist. Yeah.
I didn't even notice that. Okay, go with the flow here. That's what we do.
Right. I just break your teeth. Got to get, make sure I'm in the right safe spot. There's a fire truck going by. Hold on. Kids, I'm going to go do a video. I'll be back in a little while.
Yeah, and you got to go test drive a new car.
See, that's the other thing. I don't want to react because I love it. It's such an amazing vehicle, but all of our children are giants now, so we just have to make sure that thing even fits us anymore. Yeah, we got Holly, as we're winding down on the call, I've got mine, and I always get these. I love these. But I got Holly the new GMC Yukon Denali Ultimate.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
It has the brown saddle leather interior and the speakers and the seats and all the stuff, and it's incredible. And it's the kids fit in that car so well. I don't want just the excitement of getting a car not meeting our family's needs. And so we can all fit in some of these vehicles, but as soon as they get too small, we have to change them out. So anyway.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that's life, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, there's always this circle going on and there's always things that are ebb and flowing. And so it's just what it is. But
And I would
thank
love
you.
to hear, I'd also love to
Okay.
hear if anybody else is in any other companies, don't be afraid. I gotta give you this little nugget here. And I even wrote this in cut it out. If you might have remembered it when you open it up, I said you put 10 network marketers in a room and they're all going to tell you they have the greatest company, the fastest growing company,
Yeah.
greatest science, world record products. You never heard of technology, and they're the number one company in the industry to be a part of. And everybody drinks that Kool-Aid, but it's just, and I understand that excitement, but don't be afraid to get advice from people outside
Yes.
of your company or that are, doing, just don't be afraid of that, because we have this idea that they're going to gobble your people, or, I mean, it's just childish. If they want to go do that, let them do it.
Yeah.
But we're all trying to navigate this thing, and you just need, so don't be afraid to reach out to the wise people in the space. Don't just only feel like you have to be quarantined in the restricted realm of just what you're getting, maybe on print, your website, or from your company, because it's a very powerful industry, and there are so many nuggets out there that sometimes the familiarity doesn't allow you to hear it, so you have to hear it from somebody else on the outside.
Absolutely. And so with that, if you guys have questions
Yep.
about who those industry leaders are, I've been following a few of them and
Yep.
I've actually gotten coaching from a few of them.
Yep.
So feel free to say like, who are they? And we'll let you know. Because I think it is really important. Just in any job, you would do your research and you would find a mentor even outside of this space to coach you or follow them so that you get more advice and more expertise for yourself. Because again, we all are different people and we all learn differently and we learn differently from others. And so,
And they usually
I'm
suggest
happy you're,
find somebody on the outside
yeah,
because you hear differently.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And we're not all everybody's cups of tea.
No.
So
No.
that's what's brilliant.
No.
Yeah. So
No.
thank you so much, Gabriel. I appreciate it so much. You've been so incredible. And thank you for joining Tuesday Talks.
You blessed me like crazy asking me to do this. And I pray that what we're saying, just may none of you be able to sleep tonight. Sorry, that now the light's coming off the road. Let me hold it right. May none of you be able to sleep tonight, and may you see the possibilities that this industry can do, or you may just be wanting to step out as an entrepreneur on your own because you've worked for somebody else and you were afraid to do it. Whatever that means, whether it's not even in the space. I'm giving you permission. Nobody is
Incredible. And we have love from Australia and I know the United States today. So they are loving everything that you're pouring into this. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, knocked it out of the park. So, okay, guys, we'll see you soon.
Bye, everybody. Now, what do I do?
Bye.
Do you get off of live, or you cut it off, right?
I'll cut it off.
All right, I'm not gonna touch.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.